Hello and welcome back. You know, I first saw A Clockwork Orange, the film, sometime around the year 2000 because it was banned until the late 90s, of course. And when I first saw it back then, straight away, I knew that I was watching some kind of cult classic. I loved the film straight away and it kind of blew me away. During that time, I was like a young tearaway myself. I wasn't like Alex, of course. I didn't go around beating people up, but I was like a young tearaway, and I used to go around with a group of friends getting up to mischief and stuff. So I felt a kind of connection to the film in that aspect as well. And on top of that, I actually used to live near the location where they filmed certain scenes of the film. If you're familiar with the film, you'll know the riverside scene where Dim gets pushed in the water and he cuts his hand. I actually used to live near that location, so for all of these reasons, A Clockwork Orange has always been a very special film to me. I think it achieves a kind of perfect balance of like horror and comedy. It's like a black comedy, and it gets the balance so well. There are certain parts of the film that make you laugh out loud, but overall the film is actually terrifying, absolutely terrifying. It's 51 years old now. It's very old, but it's still got something to say. And I think even in 100 years' time, the film will still be watched by a lot of people. I actually believe that, even in 100 years' time. So, I recently read the novel, A Clockwork Orange, for the second time, and as I was doing so, I wrote down some differences between the book and the film. Now, there are lots of videos on YouTube about the differences between the book and the film, but I'm going to focus on 3 lesser known differences here. I've narrowed this video down into 3 parts, okay? I'm just going to get straight to it here. Number 1 on this list is masks. In the film, the masks that the Droogs wear don't really mean much. They just wear these masks with like the long noses and stuff. But in the book, Alex wears a mask of a former British Prime Minister called Disraeli. Now the meaning behind this one is fairly obvious, I think, because Alex is the leader and Disraeli was a leader as well. So there's an easy meaning behind that one. Georgie, however, wears a Henry VIII mask, King Henry VIII. And I think the meaning behind this one is that Georgie is also a kind of leader in the story. He at a certain point, he kind of tries to usurp Alex. And I think the whole Henry VIII thing is like a reference to that, Georgie being a leader as well. Now, when it gets to Dim, things get a bit confusing. In the book, Dim wears a mask of a poet called P.B. Shelley. I'm not very familiar with this poet, but he used to write romantic poetry. I'm still guessing at the meaning of this one. I think it might be a kind of ironic reference because the character Dim is completely unintelligent and thick, and to be a poet you've got to be quite intellectual, so I think it might be a kind of irony thing going on there. And Pete in the book wears a mask of Elvis Presley. I'm not quite sure of the meaning of this one either. My personal guess is that Pete is like a young character, a young and trendy character, and Elvis Presley at the time was quite trendy. That's the link that I can see. It's worth noting here as well that in the book, Alex is actually the youngest Droog. Even though he's the leader, he's the youngest. He's 15 years old. I found that a bit odd. That's not portrayed in the film. So that number 1 is masks. Number 2, here's a big difference between the book and the film. Number 2 is paedophilia. Paedophilia is quite a big part of the book. In the film, there's a scene in a theatre where the Droogs meet Billy Boy and his gang. In the book, it's not a theatre, it's a power plant, but they are still raping a young woman. In the film, it's a woman. Now, in the book, Billy Boy and his group are actually raping a 10-year-old girl. Right? It's just straight up paedophilia. The second example is the scene in the record store where Alex meets those two girls and takes them back to his apartment. Now, in the book, the girls are described as, and I quote, not more than 10 years old. They're actually children in the book. And another difference in the book, he's like, there's a brief description of Alex in his room, in his bedroom with these two girls, and he's actually on drugs at the time when he has sex with them. And it's described that he pulls out a syringe and he injects himself in the hand with something that's described as something that's been extracted from a cat, a wild cat. I'm going to quote again here. There's a sentence in this scene that says, "A jab of growling jungle cat secretion in the rooker." Now, a rooker is a hand, and a jungle cat, I presume, is like a lion or a tiger. This is kind of linked to the Moloko thing. In the Moloko Plus milk bar, there's something called drenchrome that's described, and I think that's supposed to be adrenochrome, and that's like a reference to an extract from somebody's adrenal gland or adrenaline gland, and they get high off the adrenaline. This, it says jungle cat secretion, so I think it's supposed to be like something that's been extracted from a lion or a tiger and then injected into his hand to give him some like extra energy or adrenaline or something like that. It's quite bizarre, but that's example number 2. And what have oh, that's it. Yeah, 2 examples there of paedophilia, but it's not in the film, and I think I know it's obvious why. Kubrick probably didn't want to get involved in that kind of thing, so he just turned the 10-year-old girls into women. But that's number 2. Thanks for making it to the halfway point of this video. This is just a quick message to let you know that I have a range of fiction books, mainly science fiction and horror, which are available at all main retailers, most of which are free. The links for these books are below. Check them out if you so wish. Thank you, and back to the video. Number 3 is dreams. Now, there is one scene in the film where Alex is talking about dreams in the hospital bed, but dreams in the book are a huge thing. It's a big theme in the book. There are lots of premonition dreams where characters have dreams about things that are kind of pre-warning or a premonition. Example number 1, Alex and his father both have a kind of dream vision of Georgie taking over Alex and his Droogs. His father has the dream, and Alex, and they both kind of know in advance that Georgie is planning this usurp tactic. Example number 2, there's a dream where Alex is having sex with a woman, and there's a group of people all standing around him watching. Now, this is in the film as well, actually, come to think of it. It's the end scene of the film. My interpretation of this dream is that Alex is being studied like some kind of test subject. All of the people are standing around him and watching him and studying him. That's my interpretation of this dream. There's another dream where he's walking through a sunny meadow, a sunny field, and there's a goat with a man's face. Now, I admit this one is completely baffling to me. I've got no idea what this dream means. If you can work this out, let me know in the comments section. But the most interesting dream scene for me in the book is he has a dream where he's in an orchestra. He's in a big band, a big orchestra, and I think he mentions that he's in the wind instrument section. And while everybody else around him are playing flutes and stuff, he's got this weird flesh instrument that grows out of his abdomen, out of his stomach, curls around to his mouth, and he's kind of playing this flesh instrument and blowing into his own stomach. So he is an instrument. He's like a human instrument, and he's playing himself. Now, I think I know the meaning to this one. I think it's it's symbolic of Alex being used as an instrument in the story, because two separate groups use him as an instrument. The government use him as an instrument, as in using him for the the Ludovico treatment. He's used as a kind of instrument for that, and he's also used as an instrument by the kind of left-wing writers, like the writer in the mansion or the house. He kind of gets used there as well. So yeah, there you go. Three things there that are not in the film, but they are in the book. The dreams are in the film a little bit, but to a lesser extent. I found these things quite interesting. I'm a fan of the book, although I do think the film is better, actually. I think the film is probably a masterpiece, whereas the book is very good because it created this kind of Nadsat language and stuff, and it is a good book. I wouldn't describe it as a masterpiece though, and I don't think it's as good as the film. What do you think? Let me know in the comments section. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back in about 2 weeks or so with another book review. In the meantime, try to have a good day on this horror show Droog-infested rock we call Earth. Take care, goodbye.